I want to first start by thanking you all for waking up so early and coming to my talk. I know it wasn't easy, right? Like, I'm not an early riser myself, so I really appreciate all your presence here. I also gonna try and make sure that your time is worthwhile here, right? So, yeah. Just a little bit about me. I'm Sowmya Guru, and I have been living in Berlin for 8 years. And this is my first time being on stage as a speaker. So I used to come every year to DroidCon, and then I always wanted to meet the community, talk to people, so I never really signed up for a talk. And also, it was intimidating, right? So, but this time, I thought, okay, let's try this. And also because this is one of the topics which is very close to my heart, I've been giving talks about this for a while now, so I thought, why not, right? So what do? I have been currently working as a CTO at Night Owl Labs, the name because I'm a night owl. And I'm also the founder, and I started this company 2 years ago. It is a design and development agency where we help small businesses to build and grow their products. I'm also the founder of CoderBee, which is one of the community sponsors at DroidCon, has been the community sponsors for a while now at DroidCon. And if you don't know about CoderBee, CoderBee is an organization where we try to help underrepresented folks, women, especially from immigrant backgrounds, BIPOC people, to learn to code. And if anyone's interested, feel free to reach out to me, and if you want to volunteer, you're welcome to volunteer. And anyone is interested in joining my network, feel free to also add me on Twitter, LinkedIn, whichever is your favorite. Always welcome to do that as well. Let's keep in touch. And today, just diving right in, let me ask you all a question. How many of you here have left your previous workplaces? Any show of hands? You hated it, you wanted to quit, you left your workplaces. Many, right? Most of us, we left, of course, in your career. And was it because the coffee machine was not working? Was it because you didn't get a good pay? Was it because, I don't know, like, did you not like your manager? Right? So yeah, I would like that. Who all here left because you did not like your environment, the people you worked with? Hands? Yeah, right? So basically, where I'm getting at is people never leave because of coffee machines. You know? People never leave because of products. People never leave even because of money. People leave because of people. And why do we have such a big problem about people? We have such a big problem because, as you can see, not many of engineers or people in tech are interested in getting political education. Because we always stress on the fact that having skills, code, crunch, learn this, debug, troubleshoot, right? We always focus so much on these skills that we forget that the most crucial and important thing that we do on a very regular basis is collaboration. Having social skills that helps you to cooperate, coordinate with people in your team, in your communities, of your own family. We interact with people. And that's why whenever there is more than one person in any place or a group, you have to know how to behave, and you have to know you're in a political environment. So today I want to redefine a little bit of like how I know this word political environment, internal politics, etc. is stigmatized, but you cannot escape this. You have to learn how to navigate this. And that's why I'm here today offering you this talk about fostering DEI, belonging, and social justice at workplaces. And I hope that we can all learn together. Forgot my clicker. So I'm giving this talk mostly because I moved from India, and in India we had quite a good diversity, at least when it comes to gender diversity. I see some people here nodding. So for me, it was quite natural to have like women everywhere, you know, schools, women were leading everywhere, people like women on the top 3, top 10, even like if you go and look at the newspapers, 10th grade, top 10, always girls, right? Engineering, top scorers, girls, women. So I came from this background, and I was so shocked when I came to Berlin, and I saw I had to always work with homogeneous crowds, mostly male-dominated, and European especially. And I was really stunned by the lack of diversity, and I had to go through a lot of toxic places and environments for them to even accommodate me, to be able to accept that I'm a woman, I can code, right? So after these struggles, I realized I should do something about it, and which is why I started Coder B, mostly in 2017, I think. And we have grown organically ever since. And right now, probably we have more than 800 people or something like that. So I've been talking about DEI quite a lot, mostly because of the lack of gender diversity, lack of diversity in backgrounds, nationalities, marginalized genders, marginalized groups, etc. And I want to understand, what does it mean to you, right? Do you know what it means already, or I need to understand a little bit, should I go much deeper in this topic, right? I'm going to introduce these terms, but please use this link. Try to answer some of these questions you might have on this. If you have the link, I hope everybody could scan it. Okay, let's look at some answers. How does this work? Are you able to provide some? Okay, there you go. So just write everything that comes to your mind about what does it mean for you when I say diversity, equity, and inclusion. Boundaries, yes. Safety, fair rights, empathy, tolerance. What's that SOAS? I'm not sure what it means. Free to share opinion, sexual preferences, understanding. Quite interested about what it means by sexual preferences. Probably I'll get to it at the end of it. Cultural, racial, beyond limitation, empathy, yeah, gender equality. Yeah, that's great. Amazing. It would be great if someone can take a picture for me and send it to me later. So Kelsos is doing it. Thanks, Kelsos. Yeah, so freedom, one of the most important things, free to share opinion, authenticity, amazing, great answers, promotions, yeah, let's do it. Promotions, right? So it's amazing to understand how you pursue all these terms, because this talk is all about understanding these terms right now, right? So let's get back to our, if I can, yeah. Moving on. So today's agenda. We'll be talking and trying to understand a little bit about DEI, belonging, social justice, and what they mean in our context when it comes to workplaces. And we'll learn a little bit about what are biases and what is meant by intersectional oppression. So all these are very political terms, I do understand, so just bear with me, I'll try to explain it as simply as possible. And we'll understand also what is the importance of diversity at workplaces when it comes to businesses. Why should they promote diversity, right? You see always companies promoting diversity, they have diversity heads and strategies. So why do they care about diversity? And the next part would be like, we could never talk about diversity without inclusion. So we'll understand what inclusion is and how does it look like. And the last part will be covering, in general, some of the examples of these terms which we'll be discussing. And the last part would be, what can you do that would actually change the course of your workplace? How can you contribute? When I want to explain diversity and inclusion, this is one of the best quotes I found on the internet. It was at a TED Talk by Werner Myers. She talks about diversity, inclusion, and she was the head of inclusion strategy. And as you can see, diversity is being invited to the party, and inclusion is being asked to dance. So such a lovely quote, right? Like, to explain this concept. Diversity is when a group of people meet to achieve a common outcome, whatever that is, to have fun, or you're working together. Whatever that is, you meet and you come together. So this creates a social and a political bubble, right? You're creating a group. So there's already a social aspect to it. And inclusion is when everyone who comes from different backgrounds, they feel like they belong to this group. They are appreciated for being there. So this is inclusion. So if we have to understand the background of why we are speaking about these things, political empowerment, we need to understand what is the problem behind, why should we speak about it? What is the problem? What is the issue with DEI? So as humans, we all have biases. We all come from different people, we have different backgrounds, we grew up differently, which means we tell ourselves stories. Our brains always makes up stories about people when we look at them. So based on how someone looks, just looking, right? We make up a story in our heads. And these are biases because we don't know these people. We just made up a story in our head without knowing these people. And there's a study called Implicit Bias, Project Implicit, where you could also go and take this bias test. And I can assure you, you will also get a score saying you're biased. Because everyone who takes this test is biased, right? Because our brain works like that. And it's important that it is biased because biologically, our evolution worked in a way that our brains had to quickly determine who is a friend and who is a foe. And if we did not find a familiarity and we belong to a tribe, we had to protect our own tribe, right? Which is why we had to identify who is an alien who's not belonging to our tribe. And this is the reason our brain still works that way today, but we can always correct it. We can make an effort consciously to be able to correct unconscious biases. And it's basically existing in everyone, which means there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's important to identify it and mend it. And that also brings us to some of the topics like systemic racism, systemic sexism, which has been going on for a very long time, which the system excludes by design for people, for women of color, women in general, BIPOC, marginalized genders. They are excluded from the system because of these biases. There are also some of the reasons like socialization, institutional biases, which do not take in consideration all the marginalized group, which means everybody in this room is both oppressed and is an oppressor. So I know we don't want to like to talk about it, right? We don't want to be being called an oppressor, but everybody might have been oppressed and will be also an oppressor at the same time. So again, there is no shame in that because we need to correct this behavior. We need to identify if we are oppressing someone and then mend it. Of course, when we are oppressed, we should also be able to point it out and make sure that you don't get oppressed yourself. So, which is why we come to the point that we do need political education to identify this. And intersectional oppression is when, say, it all comes down to, let me give you an example, right, with an intersectionality. A white woman is basically oppressed by heteronormity, is oppressed by patriarchy, and say a black person or a brown person is oppressed by, especially man, is oppressed by white supremacy. A black woman would be oppressed by, again, patriarchy, heteronormity, and additional to that is also oppressed by white supremacy. So that's why we need to understand that there is an intersection. And a curious example is when a black man oppresses a white woman, that is when the white privilege is lacking. It could also be because of patriarchy and heteronormity, right? It's always not, 1 and 0, black and white. It's always gray. So when it comes to oppression, everybody can oppress someone and will be oppressed by someone else. So you need to know your rights. So let's talk a little bit about the terms. I already explained diversity. Diversity is when a group of people come together, race, gender, backgrounds, anything like that. You come together and form a group where you have a common outcome to achieve. You're working together, you're coming together to go for a bouldering or skiing, kayaking, whatever, right? And that is diversity. Inclusion is when you feel like you belong in this place. You come together as a tribe. You know that when you go there, you have a purpose. And equity is when everybody in this group has equal opportunity to access those opportunities. So whatever and whoever you are, you should be able to have access to those opportunities equally. As we all know already, belonging, I don't have to explain, it's a sense of belonging. And social justice is the view that everybody politically, socially, and economically, should be treated equally. So why is diversity important? Especially when it comes to businesses, why is it important? It's important because organizations with greater diversity were associated with greater sales, greater revenues, greater profits, obviously because you have greater market shares. You hire people from different backgrounds who can actually help you build a business in that market. And that's why they will be the representatives of your company in that market, which makes complete sense, right? If you want to tackle a market, go hire people from that market. They'll help you and give you insights into the market. And secondly, teams and organizations which were heterogeneous in meaningful ways have a higher potential for innovation. So the key term here is innovation. When you're coming from different backgrounds, naturally these teams become more innovative, creative. It fosters creativity. And also when these teams meet, and when there were research that were run on these teams, they realized that heterogeneous teams were uncomfortable to work with each other initially, but they always outperformed the homogeneous teams, which is why you need to get more diversity in your teams. And last but not least, individuals on teams with higher psychological safety are way more likely to harness their power of ideas. Obviously, if you have to say something to your colleagues, if you don't have the critical mass of 30%, if you don't have 30% of women on your team, most likely the single woman probably is not going to talk when there are like 8 guys standing right in front of her. So you need to have critical mass just so that the minority groups feel empowered to speak up. So make sure that for having psychological safety, you also make sure that there is a critical mass in the company and nobody feels like they are the only person in this. So let's talk a little bit about representation and how it works, because when diverse teams come together, representation matters a lot. Because we all know that seeing is believing. If we see that there's no woman in a leadership role or no manager who is leading, most likely this company is not going to give me the opportunity to grow, right? You need to see that there are women leading, there are women in leadership roles. Then I will be aspiring to be that woman some other time. So seeing is believing. Be always, if you're a queer person, be there. If you're a woman, be there. If you're from any other background, if you're BIPOC, be there. So politically being in places where decisions are made is very, very important. And also you never know who else gets inspired because of you. And last but not least, diversity in topics. Diversity in topics also are very crucial when you focus on diversity. It's not just important to do gender diversity work on any other diversity, but also topics, meaning that people coming from different backgrounds get to put their heads together so that the teams get very innovative. Say someone with psychology background becomes a manager. They know about human behavior, they know how to tackle disputes, so they probably are going to be a good manager, right? So this is why we need to get people from different backgrounds to work together, and it's also, research shows that Nobel Prize winners always win because of all the collective knowledge they get from, say, if they win in math, they have a team member who is good at physics. And they might have also someone who's good at chemistry. So you come from different places and backgrounds to actually get creative at something. And very important for inclusion that you create a safe space at your company, at your workplaces. And this onus of creating safe spaces is just not on your team lead, it's not on managers, it's not on founders even. Of course, they have a huge part to play, but it's on everybody of us to be able to create safe spaces. How can we create safe spaces? First of all, you use an inclusive language, which means something that's not gender biased, maybe for starters. Using something like guys might be like, women will already be like, we don't know, maybe they're talking to the guys. Using he, she, they as pronouns shows that you care. It conveys respect, right? So language normalizes, and if you want to go a step further, I would encourage you to go a step further and become an ally. An ally is someone who can help you when in need. It could be at workplace, it could be your neighbor, so you can ally with anybody. What does it mean? It means that you don't have access to those places this person has access to. They might be a person in position of power, and they will be able to help you to get into those communities, to have access to those opportunities. And last but not least, we need to focus, whenever there are bigger groups, on code of conduct. In many, many events, even at CoderBee or any events I run, also in my company, we have a playbook where we write down everything that's acceptable and unacceptable, right? Especially what is unacceptable to all of us. As values, we write them down. And this makes it very clear for people what is an unacceptable behavior. And if it's not written, you don't know. So please do that. Next time, if in your company there's nothing like this, do suggest it. It really works. It avoids a lot of trouble, actually. So coming to the sense of belonging, as humans, we all want to belong somewhere. We are social animals. One of the purpose of work, to be motivated to come to work, is because we feel like we are a team. We belong with this tribe. This is also coming from ancient evolutionary biological concept where we have the need to belong to a tribe. So we have to appeal to our social needs, and we need to this is one of the major social needs we have, that we find the purpose of belonging. And we seek the purpose of belonging wherever we go. As you might have seen, people reflect people, right? Whatever we say, we start imitating people, we reflect things others are doing. Someone's still twitching, we twitch. Someone's yawning, we yawn. So we are very much reflective because we want to belong somewhere. The more we stood out, it was dangerous. The tribe would actually notice, so we want to be included in the group and stay in the group, which is why we need to have a sense of belonging. And this never goes away. And at workplaces, it's all the more important to foster this belonging. And how you do it is up to you. Yeah. So when we talk about equity and equality, there's always a bit of confusion. I see that what does it mean, right? This is a very nice representation of equity and equality. Equality is when you treat everybody the same, but when it comes to social justice, maybe treating everybody is the same way is not a good idea, right? If you give a vegan to eat meat, probably they're not going to be happy about it. I'm pretty sure. So what I'm trying to say is equity is having equal opportunities to something. And it doesn't mean that everybody in the workplace should be treated same. Anybody with accessibility would need an elevator, might need a wheelchair, right? So one of the examples I give is also a pie. Everybody at workplace deserves a pie. One is allergic. One doesn't eat meat. One doesn't eat eggs. How do you provide a pie in a way that everybody can enjoy a pie, right? Because everybody's entitled to a pie, and if they don't get the pie, they're going to get angry. So you need to make everyone happy. I hope it explains a little bit. So how can you contribute? First of all, by creating unbiased opportunities if you are in a position of power. Make sure that everybody is included, people of color, women are not thrown out of the system, because this bias exists, and we need to check this bias and let them in to the funnel. Boost the voices, hire people, support, promote, do a little bit extra. Access to investment, networks, opportunities. If you're an immigrant, you don't know anyone, you are not in the places where decisions are made. So get access, get intros, make intros, and shout out. I see many people, I know it's very, when I came to Berlin, I see many of my friends who are expats give me more likes than local people. I know it's very cultural, right? Using social media, but I'm just saying shout outs, make intros, support people online, offline, teach, mentor, and share your expertise. If somebody needs help, just ask them to come to you, right? Educate yourself. First of all, if you want to let people in, if you want to understand where someone is coming from, if you want to understand your colleague, your neighbor, or someone else, you need to understand their stories. And that's when you can let people in. So educate yourself on different aspects of social, economic, and political topics. And last but not least, inaction is not an option, because it's not for someone else to do, it's for everybody to do. Take charge, be proactive. Tell your story, especially if you're not from the majority culture. Tell your story. I have made this mistake before, that I was not talking to people about where I come from. I was trying to mask myself, pretend like, you know, I'm a Berliner, I'm German, and all this, because, you know, you color your hair, you want to blend in, you don't want to stand out, you want to belong, but you still have to be authentic to yourself. So all that works, but if you're not authentic to you, it's not going to work, right? So tell your story, be yourself, and let people know where you're coming from and what are your struggles. Only then people will understand what oppression means, what biases are, and how can they correct it. And this is a call to action. Everyone here, please, please, take a little bit of time. I'm pretty sure out of 24 hours, you might have a couple of minutes to help someone, and this is going to bring you so much joy. Offer to be a mentor, offer to be an ally. You don't have to have a title, you don't have to call yourself a sponsor. Just be there, put forth names when they're worth it, and they can be up for, say, promotions, for instance, and be an ally whenever someone needs your help. Just be there for them. Why do we do all of this? Why is DEI important? Because that's what makes us happy. Belonging with someone, having social connections, being liked by your colleagues, being accepted for who you are authentically, so that you can bring your authentic self to work, to have a purpose, and to also reassure ourselves that we are all humans. Deep down, we share the same pains and gains. So these are all the things that research says is top when it comes to our well-being. If we want to live happily, we need to work with people. And these days, there's more and more anxiety and depression because we are on the phone thinking that is the social connection we need, but social media is not socializing. So get out there, meet real people, listen to their stories. And lastly, I would like to finish my talk by saying that lack of diversity is not nobody's fault, but inclusivity is everybody's responsibility. Some credits and links, just take a look if you want to contribute to Coder B, if you want to take a look at Night Owl Labs, what we do at Night Owl Labs. And I also provide some consulting, private mentorship if you're struggling with something, also leadership coaching. And just remember, this is not the end. It's just the beginning. So ask yourself, what can you do today? Thank you. Lovely audience. Thanks a lot for coming. Really appreciate you. Thanks. Thank you.